On today's show, the NBA All-Star rosters were announced. Did they get it right? And who has
No.
the best case for getting snubbed? And are we believing in the Knicks as legitimate contenders? All of that and much more on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Wes Goldberg here with Adam Mares. However you might be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. We'll get to some injury news facing Joel Embiid and Julius Randle in a minute. Plus, are we believing in the Knicks? But let's start with the all-star teams that were announced on Thursday night. In the East, we'll start here. The starters are Giannis, Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, and then the reserves, we already knew those. The reserves, which is the part that was announced, Bam Adebayo, Paolo Banchero, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, and Julius Randle. It looks like we might get some injury replacements for Randle and Embiid. But before we get to the West, Adam, did they get it right in the East?
You know, I think the East was the harder conference for me.
Really?
I thought that, because there was a drop-off, I thought, after a certain level, and then you start splitting hairs. This is not a popular opinion, but Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, I just think the gap between those two guys is pretty negligible. And I think that Porzingis is more important or integral to what they are doing there in Boston. So I probably just give like a slight nudge there. I know people look at that as like talent, who's the better talent, and we'll pick Jaylen Brown. But that was my only sort of quibble here. Like, I think everybody else on this list is more or less, who would have been there. Scotty Barnes, I've seen some people say was a snub. But for me personally, I think the list is more or less okay.
Yeah, if we're talking about who maybe was the biggest snub, I think the most glaring omission, and I don't even know if I believe this, but the name that just feels like it should be there and isn't there is Trae Young, just based on what he's doing production-wise. But the book is kind of out on Trae Young, and when the coaches are voting on the reserves, as soon as Trae Young didn't get in as a starter, his chances at the All-Star game were shot. I don't think that coaches really – if Trae Young's not what he is defensively, I don't think coaches are buying into it. So
here's what's interesting about it. The numbers are unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're the 10 seed right now. They're at 20 and 27. And that's probably like if everything else is the same and they're an 8 seed, maybe even a 7 seed, do you think he gets in?
I think so. Maybe. I don't know. I think the losing hurts. And I think the fact that coaches really respect Quinn Snyder and they're in charge of voting the reserves in. And they look at like, okay, well, Quinn Snyder's obviously not the problem. And I don't even know if I believe that. I just think that the coaches probably think that.
Okay.
And say, all right, Quinn Snyder's not the problem. So what's the problem here? It must be Trae Young. He doesn't help defensively. Does he really make his teammates better, or does he stat pad? I don't know. I think the coaches have an opinion on Trae Young. And I say that only because we're seeing it. That's it. That's the coach's opinion. They don't even think he's good enough to be an all-star in an Eastern Conference, where I kind of agree with you. There's a little bit of a drop-off once you get to a certain point. That said, I think they got it exactly right. I have no problem with this. Jaylen Brown versus Kristaps Porzingis. If you want to quibble with that, I'm good with that. We can even do the Derek White argument, even though I think that's a little bit of a Boston media mafia narrative, just like the Marcus Smart thing, getting defensive player of the year the other year. Like, Boston media is going to have their hero, and they're going to push their hero. Congrats to Derek White. You're the hero of the season. But whatever. Like, that's fine. I think they got it right in the East. To me, I thought the West was much tougher.
Wes, this is like going after the Illuminati, man. I'm worried about you. Like, go
into hiding.
You were not suicidal, right? Just to make, in case something happens after going after.
I'm very happy. Bam Adebayo got in. I'm good.
Okay, well, you just insulted the Boston media mafia. I'm a little concerned. No, the only reason I bring that up is the 10 seed. I think it's easy to look at any team in the 10 seed and say, yeah, but winning matters, and that record and specifically that position. And I bring it up because when we go to the West, that's where it gets interesting.
Let's do it. So we already know the starters, but as a refresher, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the reserves that were announced Thursday night, Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Karl Anthony Towns. Adam, same question. Did they get it right?
I don't think so. And let me start by saying, I think this was made difficult by LeBron being a starter. Not that, I mean, look, LeBron James, you're not going to sit here and argue about LeBron whether or not he deserves to be in the All-Star game. But it does make it difficult when we do the standings talk and we look down and say, okay, they're the 9 seed and now they have 2 guys in. Even if you think that's fair, it does mean that there's only 10 spots for every other team in the NBA. So I hate the fact that there's nobody from the Kings that is represented here, and there are 2 Lakers who are below them in the standings. Just on principle, I don't like that. I think winning has to matter. And I think there is something weird and strange about, oh, by the way, the Lakers won tonight without their 2 All-Stars. So a team that wins without their 2 All-Stars, yet is sending 2 to the All-Star game, even though they're the 9 seed. I think that's a little bit strange. And then this one is going to be an unpopular opinion, but who's the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, Wes?
Right now, I don't know. Is it the Timberwolves now? Okay,
and are they there because they are the great offense or they're a great defense?
They're there because they're a great defense.
So they have 2 offensive players who, by the way, have been with that team in years past, and they have not been the number 1 team in the West. They have Rudy Gobert there now, who is, you know, they're the number 1 defense. He's their number 1 defensive player. He anchors them and he's there. And I get why it's an All-Star game. Nobody wants to see Rudy Gobert. I'm not caping for him to be in the All-Star game, but I'm saying if we're talking about who deserves it, and it's funny because I saw a lot of Timberwolves fans really cape for Karl-Anthony Towns to get the nod over Gobert. But if I'm looking at this, I go, that team, Gobert, Anthony Edwards, that's why they win. Gobert's defense, Anthony Edwards' ability to bring them home.
I'm 100% with you. Karl-Anthony Towns is having a great year, and that's fine. He should not be in the All-Star game versus he's All-Star caliber. He should be in consideration. Totally. He is on the short list. And I don't mean this as a slight to Cat, but
at all.
Right. But the fact, like, De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis, in my opinion, should be in over Cat. Cat's sort of the bubble guy here. He's the last one in. You can't really dispute Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. They've been awesome. The weird thing also about LeBron, going back to that point, and it's a great one, is that Anthony Davis has been better.
He's been better
this year. So if you're only going to have 1 Laker on there,
right,
you can't really take Anthony Davis off, and you can't not have an All-Star game with LeBron James not in it.
Well, I mean, you could.
It's impossible.
No, you could. And then
we never have. So
Wes, listen, my takes on this are going to be very controversial, but I just think that we are in an era of transition right now, and we're always behind. And look, I don't care about the All-Star game. I'm going on vacation. I'm not even going to be here for the All-Star game. So I'm not. This isn't a thing that actually bothers me. But for the purpose of debate, when we're talking about best players, Trae Young was the 10 seed, you said, right? Putting up some great numbers, but it hasn't correlated team success. Golden State Warriors currently are the 12 seed, almost the same exact record, and we have Steph Curry here. Now, I'm not going to sit here and beg for Steph Curry not to be on the All-Star game again, but I do think there is something to it. It sucks that the Sacramento Kings get nobody, and that somehow Steph Curry gets in there. Lakers get 2 guys.
The weird thing is that the fans want to see LeBron. The fans voted LeBron in, and he's the captain. He got the most votes. The fans really wanted LeBron in there. And so at some point, you have to recognize the All-Star game's for the fans. Give them LeBron. They wanted LeBron, obviously. Give him LeBron. But it might be a little unfair. It's like, sorry, AD, you're out, buddy. Like,
I just wonder if this is how we go now. Like, is it because I think about this a lot? Like, the highest rated game of the year was the Warriors versus the Lakers, and I sit here going, like, are we in a cycle now where it's so hard? The incumbent will always just be the most popular, and you never until they retire, you can't get rid of them.
That was why that weird year where we had Dwayne Wade and Dirk in there as sort of honorary All-Stars.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Yep,
that might be a good move. Like, we kind of get one. Like, if you're 35 or older, like, we have 1 slot. Like the vet, what's that PGA tour, the senior tour? Yeah. You get like the 1 senior spot, the All-Star. Maybe that's what we do.
Not the worst idea. Not the worst idea, because I do think that it hurts the NBA has a hard time selling its next generation for some reason.
Correct.
Because there's like the other day, the Timberwolves Thunder game was a phenomenal game. It's always phenomenal when those 2 match up, and no, it's not on national television. It's something. And I'm thinking, NBA, sell now. Don't sell the past. Sell now. These guys. We
do have Luka, SGA, Anthony Edwards. That's sort of like Devin Booker's kind of right on.
It's not a big deal, but it's just a little behind. It's just
my thing is the Sacramento fans.
I feel for them.
That's really rough because they're such a diehard fan base. I used to go to so many games there when I was living in California, and that crowd is awesome.
NBA,
they love them, De'Aaron Fox, they love them, but they're diehard about their own team, but they're not widespread. They're not like big like the Warriors fan base or the Lakers fan base or the Celtics fan base or anything like that. They don't have a media mafia behind them. but they should have gotten somebody in. That's ridiculous.
My only last take on this, Wes, is I saw a lot of people saying it's time. It's time. Open it up. 15 roster spots. No, thank you. Don't
12.
do this. Come on, guys. We don't need to
leave it alone. What they should do is the injury replacements. If we're going back to East-West, that's fine, and that's what we're doing. Right. But the injury replacements ought to just be cross-conference. I don't understand why.
Who's the number one injury replacement if you were cross-conference? Who's the number one guy?
It would be, to me, either De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis, and I haven't thought hard enough to pick one of the. I guess like my gut says Fox,
Sabonis,
but I would hear a Sabonis argument.
Well, I think statistically it's Sabonis. I think like advanced metrics, Sabonis. For me, I just feel like Fox is the heartbeat of that team. It's a little weird. It's tough.
Basically what I was trying to say, but you said it better. We've got some big injury news coming up. Plus the Knicks. We're going to talk about the Knicks. That's enough of the tease. It's coming up next here on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. Look, football Sunday, to me, look, I love the NBA. I cover the NBA. It's my job. I watch as many NBA games as possible every day of the week. But on Super Bowl Sunday, it's all about the big game. That's what I'm doing. I'm parking my seat on the couch. I'm grabbing some beers. I'm getting some snacks, and I'm placing some bets. And look, right now the Niners are 1.5-point favorites over the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know.
Is that your team?
It's kind of a pick. No, I'm a Dolphins fan, unfortunately. Okay. But I don't like betting against Patrick Mahomes. And if you think that the Chiefs are going to win, then you might as well bet the Mahomes Super Bowl MVP odds, which are at plus 135 right now at FanDuel. And I think that as money comes in, that those odds are going to get worse. You might as well get that. You get your money in on that right now. Mahomes plus 135. You're getting good money on that. Those are good odds if you think the Chiefs are going to win this game. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 Ws, maybe 3 Ws. Not only can you bet on who's going to win the Super Bowl, but FanDuel also has bets for which players are going to score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. If you're a big Taylor Swift / Travis Kelce fan, you can literally bet on Travis Kelce's receptions, and the odds kind of get better the more receptions you bet on. That's kind of fun. New customers join today, and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Before we get to the Knicks, let's talk about Joel Embiid, the latest with his injury. He's going to be out for at least the weekend. Now, stay with me here because it gets a little weird, but he's going to be out for at least the weekend with a left knee injury that he suffered this week in Golden State. He's already missed 12 games this season, so that means he's going to have missed a minimum of 14 games between tonight's game against Utah and then their game over the weekend. So he can only miss 17 all season and remain eligible for the awards because of that 65-game minimum. This has been a big topic across the NBA world, whether or not the 65-game minimum is unfair or if it's fair or all these unintended consequences, etc. Where do you stand on all this, Adam? And what do you think about this Joel Embiid injury news? Because it was a meniscus tear. Now it's not. Now maybe he's going to be back after the weekend or maybe not. It's very, very blurry.
Very blurry. I mean, the whole situation has been blurry from when the injury happened to the follow-up game to Denver where he's not on the injury report, then all of a sudden he's out at the last second, to then he's out a couple games and he comes back. They say it's because of pressure, then he gets fallen. So did this injury, did it happen in the Pacers game? Is that when it happened? Did it happen in, when he tried to come back against the Warriors at some point throughout the game when he was pushing himself, when he clearly looked like he was hurt? Did it happen when Kuminga fell on him? Like, all of this is shrouded in mystery. And then we get the report that, hey, he has a torn meniscus. And then Shams, not minutes later, hours later comes in and says, actually, to clarify, Team has not confirmed a tear. He just will remain out through the weekend. So all of this is so bizarre. I feel for Joel Embiid.
What's the MRI for? Was that the worst MRI ever?
Well, so I've heard,
MRI, do you know if it's a tear or is it not a tear? That's the point of the MRI.
So here's the thing: is he has had a lot of knee issues.
Yes.
And, just kind of, I've seen some different, the Twitter doctors, not I'm saying people who are pretending to be doctors, actual doctors who do this on
Twitter,
Twitter, talking about how sometimes when there's lots of damage, it can be difficult to read and say, is it like, where's the new damage? You get some imaging and you need to get new imaging and second opinions and different things. So maybe it's that it's like, yeah, we don't know if this is like something new that just happened or if this is sort of what it looks like with all the damage. So that's why I think it's all shrouded in mystery, but it does suck for Joel Embiid.
One more thing on the injury, though. This is a left knee injury. The apparent injury that he sat out that Denver game with, that was a right knee injury.
It was?
I'm pretty sure. And so, or at least it was listed as a right knee injury, and there's a whole investigation on the listing of the injury and all that stuff. So who knows what's really happening here? So all of this is very strange, but this, according to some of the reporting around it, and I can't remember who had it, I'm sorry, but I think it was The Athletic. It wasn't Shams. Maybe it was. I don't know. But that he had been dealing with this injury of some kind with lower body injuries for basically all season long, that this has sort of just been an issue. And now, of course, Philadelphia sources, wherever these sources are coming from, are probably going to say something like that in the midst of all this stuff. But it's very, very blurry to go back to the whole point. In other words, this is what we know, and we don't know anything, essentially, and nobody knows anything, apparently.
The MVP piece of this to me has always been somewhat uninteresting. I always thought that he was going to be below, after he missed the initial bunch of games. I just thought he's going to miss more. We're not even halfway through the season. He's already missed half the games. The back half more likely to miss even more games. So this part of it was always, I thought people were making a deal of something where it's like, come on, he's not going to play 65 games. And that's not a knock on him. It's just like you look at the progression. Mm-hmm. So that part never mattered to me. The part that mattered to me was I think this is the best team of the process era. I think that Tyrese Maxey, who as we speak has 30 points heading into halftime on 10 of 14 shooting, I think that he is a worthy running mate for Joel Embiid in ways that not even James Harden have necessarily been that. Now, curiously enough, I actually think that as Embiid's season took off and he was getting better and better, I actually think that Maxey took a more and more reduced role in a way that was not healthy for the team. And now we see tonight 30 points. I mean, he might go for 50, 32 now at the half, might go for 30, might go for 50, might go for 60 tonight. I do think the ultimate best thing for them is to blend and there be a little bit more of an equal share. And maybe this leads to it. If we try to give like a positive spin, we just try to be optimistic. It is possible that Embiid is out for a month. He comes back to a Tyrese Maxey who has demonstrated just how capable he is of also being a star, not a second fiddle, not a Robin to his Batman, but hey, I'm also Batman. I think there's something there that, hey, that's how you're going to win. I've always thought you're going to win with a two-man game and with two players, not with just one brilliant star. So maybe this can have a silver lining for Sixers fans.
The good thing is, I guess, the timing of the injury, it's not in the playoffs. And that's sort of been Philadelphia's problem, is that Joel Embiid gets hurt in the playoffs. Now, this doesn't mean that he won't get hurt in the playoffs. And if this is a lingering injury, then maybe this is just something that's going to crop up later also. But in terms of the MVP race, I'm with you. I don't find the debate terribly interesting. The whole, now it's like, are we debating whether or not we should have put the 65-game limit in? And is it hurting somebody like Joel Embiid? That's the part that I think is just sort of, we're kind of we're losing the plot and all of that.
The plot for sure.
If you don't play 65 games, whether or not there's a rule there or not, you're not going to win MVP. Only one player has ever not made 70. Only one player since we went to 82 games has has not made 70 games and won MVP. That was Bill Walton. That's it. If you don't reach 65 games, it's just not going to happen for you. And I've also heard the argument that, well, if they didn't have this limit, then Joel Embiid wouldn't have felt forced to play against Golden State. I hate that one. Don't play.
Right.
Nobody's forcing you to play.
Right.
Don't read the blogs and the things and the tweets. Just don't play. We're not in charge of that.
That part is one of the arguments that I can't accept. Like there are some certain sacrifices that people have to make in their careers and in this or that. And so this idea of like, well, it's not fair because he wanted this or then he felt pressure. players and athletes feel a lot of pressure. Guys feel
Sure.
pressure to score a lot of points. They feel score, and sometimes the right thing for the team is to take reduced roles and this or that. So for me, that's a dynamic that exists for
And a
athletes.
player like Joel Embiid knows what it means to take care of his body. This guy missed the first 2
Right.
seasons of his career because he was trying to take care of his body. He gets it. If
Right.
we're prioritizing, I think his body is at the top. He already won an MVP. He just got it. So it's probably less of a priority for him now. So I don't buy it. I think it was just a bad accident in Golden State. Even before he got hurt again, when Kuminga stepped on him or whatever in the 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, he took a bad fall earlier in that game too, and he still stayed in the game. He
Right.
still tried to stay in that game, and he
Well,
did.
you recall
So
that was the same case in the Pacers game where he injured it immediately. He was back
exactly.
in the game afterwards so who knows? Who knows what's going on here? I think we all have to kind of wait and see how this breaks. And hopefully with this latest Shams report, it has me hopeful that maybe it's not, that maybe there's there's some chance for it not to be as bad as it sounds.
Who's the MVP favorite if we take Embiid out of the mix? We'll do that quick.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah. That's
I think that you can make a case
Yep.
for Jokic. I think the guys that have a chance would be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jokic, and Luka Doncic. That would be your favorites, in my opinion, at the moment.
I could throw Giannis. Giannis could sneak in there. Yeah.
But Shai and look, Luka right now is on an absolute tear. So there's a chance. I think the standings are going to matter there, and we'll see how they finish.
If you think Luka's going to make a run, not to do the FanDuel ad read again, but now would be the time to get in your money on Luka because the odds are pretty good compared to the other. Because I think Shai's moved up to second favorite on FanDuel. In terms of
You're right, because they're the 8 seed and they are way behind. You look at the top 4.
So you have to predict a Dallas run, but like the odds
yeah, you're right.
Odds are like if you're just trying to get good odds, that's all I'm saying.
I'm going to say Shai. Take Shai. Yoke doesn't want it.
Take the safe bet. Take
Yoke
the safe
does not
money.
want it, so he will throw that one.
You play crap 6s and 8s, back up your bet. That's it. You're not
Actually. You want to know the real dark horse? Jalen Brunson, who I'm not even kidding.
Ooh.
I think actually deserves MVP consideration. When you use the word valuable, I know we always debate what that means. Very few, if any, players are more valuable to what their team does than Jalen Brunson.
Well, we're going to talk about that and the whole Julius Randle thing, because with Randle out for 2 to 3 weeks, he could be even more important to that Knicks team that is rolling right now. We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of betting against thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. Usually in this read, I talk about LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. Well, how about this? Super Bowl Sunday, Heat versus Celtics at 2 o'clock. The Super Bowl is at 6 o'clock Eastern time. You could still put Travis Kelce in that combo bet, but why not throw Jimmy Butler in there, who's on a roll right now on his points? Do a little combo of Jimmy Butler and Travis Kelce. You're going to have yourself a nice little day. If you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks communities each week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, get started. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Let's go to New York, where the Knicks beat the Pacers 109-105. The Knicks were without Julius Randle, who dislocated his right shoulder and will be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. But the Knicks have won 9 straight. Despite that, they are half a game out of second place in the East. I think after tonight, they'll be tied for the 3rd best net rating in the league. Adam, are you believing in the Knicks?
With all of my heart. I love this Knicks team. They are right there. The best story in the NBA right now is the Oklahoma City Thunder. The second best story in the NBA might be Jalen Brunson's Knicks. They are unbelievable. They're tough. They are a team that befitting the city for which they play, because they're easy to root for. I love Hartenstein. I thought he's been a diamond in the rough since he left Denver, several years ago, and Denver did not utilize him. I thought that he was a perfect guy to be the understudy of Nikola Jokic. He loved Jokic. I think he learned a lot. You look at his stat line tonight. He did rebounds. He did assists. He did everything. Yes, they lost Julius Randle, but they just have some tough players. Josh Hart's a winner. DiVincenzo, I think, is a winner. They have guys that are winners on there, but of course, Jalen Brunson is that guy. He is so freaking tough, so smart, so clutch, and a great leader, just in that entire team seems to have his back. And tonight, Wes, I know I'm going long here, but tonight he gets poked in the eye in the clutch. They go down one. He comes right out of the timeout and gives a big and one bucket and then gets the crowd going. It was one of those ones where it's like certain guys have the ability to be like, no, this is the moment and I'm stepping up for it. He just seems to have that.
I love when
how it has reached this point now where you're on the garden floor hearing MVP chants and you're going to the All-Star game.
I mean, I got nothing to say.
That's great. That's great.
Whew. He's pure emotion, man.
Just emotion, man. He can't even do the interview, and he's great at doing those interviews. I love Jalen Brunson. I love what he means to that city. I love how he's just adopted it. I love how they cheer for him. You don't see people at Madison Square Garden hanging out after that game's over, and they hung out for that guy. He put up 40 tonight against the Pacers. Bigger picture with the Knicks. I love when teams know what they are and who they are. The Knicks are going to defend well. They're going to control the pace. They're going to dominate the boards. They're just going to do those things.
Yeah.
And when any of those things fail, and even when they don't fail, they have a star in Jalen Brunson who's just going to make things happen. He had 40 tonight in a tough matchup against the Pacers. That team is legit. I don't know if I'm ready to put them up there with like the Bucks and the Celtics and the Sixers in the Eastern Conference, but man, that team they keep winning games, and nobody's going to want to play them in the playoffs. They're going to be physical. They're going to have their games. They're going to dominate the way that they dominate. And matchup wise, they do have some advantages over some of those teams that I had just mentioned. I don't know. It wouldn't, like, a conference finals run would not shock me with this team, depending on how sort of the bracket falls, you know?
I mean, look at it. The Cavs have been without some of their stars for a while. They're in the 4 seed right now. The Knicks are going to be without their star, Julius Randle, for a while, and the 76ers are going to be without their star and Embiid for a while, it seems. That's the 3, 4, and 5 seed that are all going to have to or have had to overcome a stretch without one of their top players. I love it. And when you say you're not ready to put them in that category, they're already ahead of the 76ers. They're already ahead. So, like, in your mind, you're putting them on the road against those, but it's possible that they're just the higher seed.
Yeah.
Why not? They're a game behind Milwaukee for the 2 seed.
The OG and Anunoby trade transformed that team. It kind of put the pecking order in place, which I think is an underrated thing when we talk about trades. Like, they were always trying to kind of get RJ Barrett going. They don't have to deal with that anymore. Quickly was ready to take a bigger leap. Congrats. But you already had your backcourt guy. You had Jalen Brunson. So since OG Anunoby played his first game with the Knicks on January 1st, this is a stat from Zach Cram from The Ringer. The Knicks rank first in record, 14-12, first in net rating. They're a plus 15.8, which is insane.
That's a pretty good one.
And first in defensive rating at 104.4, and they were pretty good defensively even before that. So
believable, man.
This team's awesome. All right, let's move on.
I'm buying them, though. Not ironically, not like riding a wave. I'm buying them. I just buy toughness. I don't know if I think they go all the way. You know, we'll see their warts eventually, but I buy the fact that you are not going to out tough the Knicks. You might get beat.
This is the best Knicks team since that one like 54 win year with Carmelo, 2012.
It's maybe more suited for the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see, man. We'll see. I'm excited.
Yeah, I don't know if they're better or worse than that team, but this is like the best Knicks team in a decade plus. I mean, this team's awesome. It's Friday, which means it's time to count down to the weekend with our weekly power rankings.
I'm not a system player. I am a system player. Power rankings.
There it is.
This week, we're counting down the top 5 players who have not made an All-Star game in their career. A couple of honorable mentions before we get into them.
Okay.
Mikal Bridges.
All right. Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I don't. It's not been a snub, but this is honorable mention.
Okay. All right, he's pretty good.
Weirdly, Victor Wembanyama.
You know what? I'll allow it. I think you're right. I think you're right. If we're being like literally how this works, you're right.
Yeah. And I'm just going to throw in Kyle Kuzma. Again, I don't think
Okay.
he's like a snub, but he's been, you kind of go through the list. And
Yeah, this list might not be the greatest play. This is the funny part about the list is
it's sort of foreshadowing
you
who's in front of
expect
him.
it to be who's going to be great. You're like,
Right.
Kyle Kuzma.
No, we got some good. We got some good ones. Are you ready? All right. So number 5, we're counting down from 5 to 1.
Okay.
Number 5.
So
You
the
ready?
number 1 snub in the NBA. Okay. Yep.
Well, no. Yeah.
Who has never
The fifth-
been? Yeah, never
the
made
fifth
it. Yeah.
snub right now. Tyler Hero.
I think. Okay.
I put him above Bridges and Kuzma, and just
Yeah, you
Wemby's
did.
a rookie. Sorry, buddy. But Tyler Hero
have
is
Wemby
a
over the-
20-plus point per game scorer, a former 6th man of the year who has since been promoted to the starting lineup. He's a very good player. Again, I don't know that he's a hard snub. I don't feel for him, but he's 5th on the list.
I think he belongs on this list for sure.
Yeah. Number 4, Desmond Bane. The Grizzlies just don't get all-stars unless they're John Morant. Mike Conley never made the all-star team. Desmond Bane's never making the all-star team. It's never going to happen for him unless he turns into a 30-point per game scorer. It's probably not going to happen in the Western Conference. Maybe if he gets traded to the Eastern Conference, maybe something can break there. But even then, there's so many good guards.
That's Jalen Brunson's conference, man. Come on.
Right, that's true. That's true. It's never going to happen. Sorry, Desmond Bane. You deserve it. You really do. You're a great player. 2 ways. I
don't know if he deserves it. I think he deserves this list.
Yeah. I mean, if you deserved it, you'd have been on it. So whatever.
But he's good.
Number 3, Alperen Sengun.
Oh, Sengun. He'll be there eventually.
Baby Joker. He'll get there eventually. Yeah. I'm actually surprised he wasn't really talked about more, but Houston's record kind of took a slide, and that was it for him.
Yeah.
Number 2, Chet Holmgren.
Wow, this far ahead of Victor Wembanyama, despite being basically in the same category. I was wondering.
The difference is his team might be the best team in the Western Conference, and Wemby's team might be the worst team in the Western Conference.
I don't know if you got the biggest snub on the Thunder, if we're being honest with you. You remember our guys, Jalen Williams.
Oh my God, you're right.
Jalen Williams might be, I think I'd have him above some of these guys.
All right, we're moving it. Jalen Williams. Tyler Hero has been bumped to honorable mentions. Jalen Williams is above Desmond Bane, but below Alperen Sengun.
Okay.
I'm just a Sengun guy. I'm also a Jalen Williams guy. I don't know.
Yeah, this is
it's all right there. But number 1, without a doubt, it's Jamal Murray.
Guess what? He's staying on this list for his entire career. He's going to go down. I thought this was the year he was going to go crazy. And in a year of crazy scoring, he's averaging 20 points. 21 now. 21
and he missed
points.
14 games already?
He didn't miss that. He might have missed. He missed a handful. I think he could still be eligible if it weren't, if he was averaging 27. 20.
No, but when you're starting to split hairs.
Yeah. But I'm saying he's averaging 21 points. That's like, if you just talk about all the guys, that you just go through, it's 24, 25, 26, 21.
Yeah. De'Aaron Fox didn't make it. He's 9th in scoring in the NBA.
Right.
And he didn't make it.
I just think that Jamal Murray is going to be that guy that does this and then goes to the playoffs and becomes Michael Jordan.
The new Mike Conley, except for the playoff.
There you go.
Delivering part of it. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Everydayers, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Odyssey, and wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel.